For the show, we got this ranger to wrangle with the danger. He'd rather be at peace with nature, not that kind of haymaker. On a quest for a treasure, he'll have to toughen his leather. He'll charge ahead, whatever.
Cowabunga! Best you be wary of bears, especially polar bears, and especially polar bears with cubs. Probably best to keep distance from them altogether. On the chance that you did manage to wrestle with one successfully, the meat you could get from them is poisonous anyway. Too much vitamin A. I should stay focused. But so tempting. Oh? What's this? Looks like someone built a beaver whack in the snow. You mean a bivouac? Yes, that's what I said. Building a shelter in the snow during a storm can actually be good for keeping warm. However, you should be careful not to get frozen inside. If you do happen to find yourself under some ice, and you don't have your ice axe handy, you might try defecating, and then letting that freeze, after you fashion it into a chisel of sorts, and then It may be strong enough to break the ice. Did feel so. Seriously, a guy did that. A feline fellow. Being far out into the forest. But fond of these fishsicles. Aha! But I'm going to need some more dried fish for another one. Perhaps this is a good place. As often happens, I followed this waterway and found a settlement again. I'm sure that wasn't load bearing. There, for a band function. I was hoping to avoid this, as I think it's quite icky to handle fish. And not very sporting to try to catch them this way. However, I've made this fishing rod, as you can see. Where's... Ah. Well, this might probably take a while anyway. I've made this fishing rod with no metal hook and no bait. You know. My wife and my children and I would often vacation at rivers and camp and such. And while my wife and son would fish for their dinner, my daughter and I would spend the time cleaning up debris from the river Instead, and I noticed that in this room, this might be a good opportunity to do both. Or rather, part of each. As you can see, the live fish in the river are not attracted to the rod at all. And therefore, the ones I'm fishing up are dead. Just debris, detritus, floating in the currents. And so I'm actually hoping to clean up the seeming overabundance of fish fatalities. Not sure why there are so many in this realm. Perhaps it has to do with the presence of those freshwater cephalopods? Or perhaps things like this. Littering and pollution and shipwrecks and such. Or perhaps it's the undead abominations. I blame the undead abomination. Got to be extra sneaky in the snow, seemingly. Quite the appetite. Now where did that other feline fellow go? Aha! The whole kit and caboodle. Creepers crawling. And crawling creepers. This bed is getting quite crowded. Time to drop a load. Some magical magnetism. Also time for more drinky drink. Always a good time for more drinky drink. Unless you're really in a tough survival situation, then you might want to be very careful what you drink. Or it could be that you're in trouble. Steed the third. The third steed. Threed? Now with better buoyancy. Although I'm pretty sure now that most of these creatures have been female. You know, I've been wondering about the breeding in this realm that the creatures seem to do by simply rubbing noses. I postulate a projectile pheromonal process precipitating a phenomenon of polymerized procreation, prompting particular parthenogenesis and projectional production. Ah, here we are at the beach again. I came to this particular beach because I spotted a dolphin here before. And it's near a warm ocean. Because I'm looking for some particular ruins in the warm ocean. And I heard tell that the dolphins know where to find such things for a fishy fee. I'll have all of the party wait here, I suppose. For now. They're not all as good at swimming as I am. As my wife said, I'm an expert. Uh, Although, sometimes I forget to hold my breath when I go underwater and keep talking anyways. But that's because I'm such an expert.